Hey y'all,
What's going on, everyone?
I'm Jay,
And I'm Chris the Bird Nerd.
and we
We
are
are the
the
Bird
Bird
Brains.
Brains.
Cheers.
Oh yeah, cheers. It's been a long day for me, so I'm into the vino. Not drunk, just tired. I have to always say that. One day I'll just do like an episode and just pound like 20 beers and see how good my bird advice gets. Um, so I put, uh, I guess I can't really turn my camera around and be a pain, but right on the other side of the camera is Einstein's like play stand for during the day when I'm working.
Uh-huh.
And so I had him in my office all day, and then I actually went to the grocery store to get vegetables for Einstein. I had to make a batch of his fresh food and freeze it.
Hmm.
So I put what I do when I leave him here is I put the podcast just on for him. And so I saw the beginning of like episode three, or like it must have been the first episode where we were like, we are the bird brains. I don't know. I can't remember if we figured that out right at the beginning or whatever, but we were way off, like a full 5 seconds off. And we've gotten better. We've gotten better at that.
I had the last episode that we had posted last week. I had it up on my computer playing, and I was doing some stuff with work on my other computer. And my oldest daughter came in, and it was at the first when we do that part, and she's like, "Dad, what is that?" Well, actually, that's our corny dad bird brains joke that we have at the beginning of our video. She's like, "Okay."
Yeah. Have you ever seen those videos online? It's called like Doc Talk, where the guys
Uh-huh.
just sit there and drink coffee and make dad jokes, try to get the other
Uh-huh.
guy to spit out his coffee. It's like, yeah, it's our little version of that.
We always my
But
boy and I we usually do like a book when we go to bed, and then like a few minutes of funny Instagram videos of people, following and stuff like that. Every once in a while we come across, and it's like the dads. There's like three of them, and they usually are dressed up as aliens, and they just do dad jokes back and forth. And some of them are hilarious. It's probably one of our favorite things. I'm like, we need to like get some bird jokes that we need to kick around every once in a while on this puppy. Get some humor in there for us.
we do need to. I'm trying to think if I know any good bird jokes. Well, I know it's not originally birds, but it'll make you laugh for sure. So people always ask me if I make any money off birds, and I tell them, "Do you know how to make a small fortune in birds?" Do you
No,
know the answer?
no.
You start with a large fortune.
Amen to that, brother.
There you go. So there's
You
your
start
dad joke of the night.
you start with a large fortune and you never recover.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. All my money goes to birds. It's fine. It's fine. I probably won't be homeless with a bird cage. Probably.
I love that.
Speaking of spending money, um, we have got this episode is we've been meaning to do it for a while. It's been on the
Yeah,
list, I think, since the beginning.
it really has been.
And
Yeah.
I uh just like you, right? We're coming out of breeding season. I'm kind of taking stock of everything. I've got a Instagram post I'll probably put up tomorrow, um, talking about, in my head, I always think breeding season's the busy time. That's when I have to do the most work. And then afterwards, you can kind of relax. And it's just not true. Um, it's coming out of breeding season, especially, is so much work. I've got to clean my quarantine cages, my holding cages. I've got to clean all these nest boxes, toss the ones that aren't any good.
Yep.
And then I'm getting ready to, rescape the whole aviary. So I'm replacing some wood, and it's like, man, I never have time to get everything done. I'm like, I took the kids to school, and then before work started this morning, I was out doing some stuff, and it's like, but one of the things that I looked at was my stocks of everything beyond food, right? All the other things that the birds need.
Yep.
So what are we going to talk about today, Chris?
So we're going to talk about what more do you need other than seed to feed your birds to give them a well-balanced diet day to day throughout the year.
Yeah, all the nutrients, all the supplements, all that stuff. So today is beyond food.
The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. Bird Brains, Bird Brains. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. Bird Brains, Bird Brains.
First, before we get to beyond food, we're really close. I think today, let's see, we posted the 7-day video yesterday.
Yep.
When this comes out, I think will be 5 days.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so New Zealand has started to send us some of the stuff to highlight for y'all. I'm very excited about it. We checked, a lot of it's up on the website. So the website now, by the time you're watching this, you'll be able to go and get this stuff if you need it. So I'll start here, 4-in-1 powder, also in Spanish, if you're interested in treating your birds and becoming more bilingual. And we don't charge extra for the Spanish lesson. There's another dad joke for you there. So 4-in-1 for the treatment of canker, E. coli, paratyphoid, and coccidiosis. So it's got different medications in one. This is the powder form. Most of them I see are powders.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll see a liquid one. Typically they're powders. You put it in liquid. There'll be dosing instructions on here. So this is a teaspoon per gallon.
So they usually are per gallon.
Yeah. Helpful hint, the way I do these medications, quick tip, I have a really small, like measuring spoon set that goes down to 1/64th of a teaspoon up through 1/2, so I got it on Amazon, it was like $4. And then I have a 1 liter, 1 quart, which roughly are equivalent, water container that I just use always to mix these things so that it makes the math pretty easy. So I know that if it's 1 teaspoon per gallon, I'm going to do 1/4 of a gallon. I can do 1/4 of a teaspoon, keep my dosing the same, because it's unlikely, I would not likely be mixing a gallon of this at once. That's quite a bit.
Right.
So, that's the thing. So 4-in-1 is great for 2 different things. You can use it prophylactically, say that word 6 times fast, if you need to, but you can also, I don't like to use it for that. You can make, medicine resistant strains, things like that. What I use 4-in-1 for most of the time is this is my break glass in case of emergency medication. So I find a bird that's sick or down on the ground, and I don't know, I haven't figured out, I haven't seen the droppings, it's been out in the aviary, I don't really know what's wrong with it yet. This is what I put the bird on until I figure it out. It can treat a lot of things on its own, but there are other medications that I like more for specific things. But if I don't know, this is what I use. It's just kind of a broad spectrum catch-all. Those 4 things, so your canker, your E. coli, your paratyphoid, and your coccidiosis, are 4 of the most common issues,
right,
that you run into, especially outdoor bird keeping, but indoor too. And so this is my break glass in case of emergency medication. It's on the website now. This is, if you were only going to have 1 medication at your house, this would be what I would have, and I would have it before I needed it. I always keep this. So that's 4-in-1. Chris, what did you get?
And just one thing to add to that, Jay, and we talked about this, I think, in one of our most recent videos. Make sure that you store those properly. Follow the instructions. Keep them in a cool, dark place. That powder can go a long ways, right? That's a lot of medication right there. The odds are you're not going to use all that before it goes bad and expires. But to prolong the life of it, keep in a cool, dry, dark place. Some medications require refrigeration, but those are usually your liquid medications. But yeah, I don't know if it has anything on there, Jay, as far as in storage instructions.
This one doesn't. Some do, some don't. This one says don't combine with any. Oh, it does say store in a cool, dry place below 25 degrees Celsius. So I think that's below like 75 degrees or so.
Yeah. Hmm.
Someone who knows Celsius, drop in the comments and make us smarter. Um, yeah, and the other thing I would say too. So like, yeah, this is 100 grams. So this is enough for 20 gallons. And it expires in July of 2026. I probably will not go through 20 gallons between now and July of 2026. Um, this is also, there's a pigeon on here, if you can see on the camera. A lot of people who do like racing pigeons and stuff will use this stuff, and they probably have, bigger flocks. And I don't know how, I don't keep big pigeons, so I don't know how much they drink, but I assume it's a lot more than a finch.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why there's such big amounts. But the other thing I'll do is, when I cut this open, I'll just clip a corner, get out what I need, and then I'll keep the rest in a Ziploc bag, squish the air out, that kind of thing. So,
Yep.
yeah,
Absolutely.
good advice. What about you, Chris? What you got?
Yeah. So really excited about this. New Zealand sent me some beautiful green leg bands. Da, da, da. It's like Christmas. It's like I feel like we're just showing off all our presents and our gifts. So, and
Yeah, it is like that.
I actually have some birds that I'm going to put these on. So I'll try and get a clip that we can add in, just showing you. I know I've had some people ask how I band my birds. So these are your split or half open rings. So there's the banding tool. Let's see if you can see right there, the banding tool right there. You
Uh,
slide the ring over it and then put the bird's leg in there, and it pops the ring onto the bird's leg. So, and they're numbered 1 through 12. I know these come in different colors. I think currently New Zealand has the green ones in stock, and they're looking to get some of the other colors there for you. Very reasonably priced. And for me, an absolute must. This is what helps me to band and identify my birds year to year. It helps me to track genetics and who the parents are, etc. So very, very important part of keeping birds, and also an important part when I sell my birds, so that I can keep track of the lineage, and let those who purchase my birds know who they come from, make sure that I'm not giving them related pairs, etc. Or if I am, that they know about it. And so um, super cool. Go on New Zealand right now. Check out the leg band.
and
I'm excited
those
about
are
them.
the ones I use, which is why New Zealand's using them now or selling them now. And so what I've done is every year I've done a different color for the offspring. So like if you got birds from me last year, green was my color last year. So Chris, I know, has some green band birds.
Yep.
Um, this year I used orange. I had some leftover green band, so I kind of blurred it a little bit. But so I'll do things like I'll put, um, if I see a bird sing in quarantine, I'm like, okay, that one's definitely male. I'll put a blue band on it, or a girl, I'll put the pink band, right? That kind of thing. Or if I have two pairs like my diamond doves, I have two pairs. The babies are fairly identical. So one pair I always put their leg bands on the right leg. The other pair I put their leg bands on the left leg, so that when I'm catching them out to make pairs for people and stuff, I know who's related and who's not. So
Yeah.
super useful. I think we've done a
Yep.
bands episode, I think.
Yep. We have.
Um, so, these are really, you talked about really affordable. I mean, you're talking about 12 bands or $2.45 on
Yeah.
the Perchville website right now. So very, very reasonable. We're going to get some more colors and numbers on there, but yeah,
And
easy to.
I would say, just as a responsible bird keeper, these are very handy, and I think it's important to keep track of your genetic lines, and who's related to who, and colored bands are a great way to do that for your finches. I know a lot of people are NFSS members, and they do the closed bands every year that have the year etched into the band. If you want to do that, I think that's a great option. I don't do that. I'm not registered through them. So the split half open bands with different colors is my next best thing, to where I can keep track of the year that they're born, and the genetics and who the parents are. So go out and check them out. Go get some.
Yeah, and I'm not, this is just coming on the website now, so I'm not sure how you can find it by clicking through. I think you got to search. But if you search, 4 in 1, let's see what comes up. Yeah. So if you search that, that comes right up. And then if you search bands, the leg bands come right up. So
Sweet.
we're getting stuff on the website. I'm starting to see nest boxes, all kinds of good stuff. And some of this stuff will be coming. I believe the bands will be coming in the perch box. That'll be one of
Yeah.
the things that you'll get in the perch box.
Yeah.
I honestly can't tell you. It's not like I'm surprised. I don't know which box. Each box has different stuff. But I know that that's a box item. And then stuff like the medications here will be an add-on.
Yeah.
So really excited. We're just a couple days away here.
I was gonna say, and by the time you guys see this video, at least our 5-day promo of the Bird Brains Perch Box will have gone out and gone public. So we're literally less than a week away, Jay, of the Bird Brains Perch Box, and you
I don't
guys being
think, did
able
we
to,
make a 5 day? I don't think we made a 5 day. I think
did
we
we not?
did.
Was it a 3-day? Is it seven
Yeah.
day, 3-day? Okay, so by the time you
Yeah.
guys see this, we'll be about 5 days away,
Yeah.
and then you guys will be seeing our 3-day promo just as a reminder. But get ready, go in and start researching those Bird Brains perch boxes and subscribe. I think I'm really excited, honestly, to see what comes in them. I think it's a really cool idea and a good way for you to experience different types of bird products and for your birds, and maybe some things that you wouldn't normally buy, but it's nice to have them on hand and to be able to use them and kind of branch out from what we just usually do day to day. I think it's great, and I think it's a good opportunity to support us and support New Zealand. So go out there and subscribe to those Bird Brain Perch Box.
And as always, even if you're just going to get just your 4-in-1 or your rings or whatever, use code BirdBrains, 10%
Yes.
off your order. All
Cha-ching.
right.
10% off, $2. What's that? $1.90?
Yeah, there you go. So, no, but yeah, those bands I couldn't breed effectively without them. You got to have them. And those are the easiest. They're so simple to use. It's,
Yeah.
it's a no-brainer there. Best $2, best 8 quarters you ever spent. Okay, so beyond food.
We need like a Buzz Lightyear to be flying through,
Yeah,
going
to
above and
infinity and
beyond, to
beyond food.
infinite. Yeah, and I think Jay, this part's important, and the reason why it's important is it doesn't matter what kind of bird you have. If you got an eclectus all the way down to your smallest finch that you own, Jay, do you have orange cheek wax bills? What's your smallest finch that you have?
Ooh, by size, it's the gold breast
Okay,
wax
yeah,
bills.
yeah, there you
By
go.
weight, it's my red-eared wax bill, who's slightly larger in body but weighs like 1 gram less.
You know, it doesn't matter the type of bird you have. What does matter is what they're eating. And for most birds, everybody thinks of seed. You got to make sure they have seed. And yes, especially your finches, that's a staple part of their diet. Uh, but they need more than seed. They still need other nutrients, vitamins, minerals, etc. And so that's what we want to talk about, and what we mean by going above and beyond just your seed diet is what else do your birds need for them to be happy and healthy and to live longer, right? We want them to be in a good place always, and this is some of the things that we're going to talk about helps them to maintain that status of healthy and happy.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we're not talking about fresh food or egg food in this episode. We've already talked about that at length.
That's
See
a
the
part of it,
previous
but not part
episodes.
of this video.
Right. So this video, I guess we can just kind of go through one at a time. So the first, most easy, most basic one is cuttlebone, for me. So that's like on the list of things all birds pretty much need to have available all the time. It's food, water, cuttlebone. Now, can be a little controversial, which seems silly, but some people are concerned about the humaneness of cuttlebone, which my understanding is all the cuttlebone that you're getting is from like squid that's being made into like calamari, like food for people. So I'd rather use that cuttlebone than just throw it away. It's not
Yeah.
something humans would eat. But there are other ways around that. If you're not comfortable with that, there are mineral blocks. Hari has these great mineral blocks. Other companies make them, but what they are is a great source of calcium
Yeah.
combined with enrichment. And the cuttlebone does two main things. So again, provides that calcium, which birds, especially laying hens, have to
Oh,
have.
it's a
And then
must.
the other thing that it helps with is beak honing. So it's
Hmm.
harder. You can crush it with your hand, but it's harder than some of the other stuff. So it helps keep their beaks. You'll see them, the way they kind of bite at it is kind of like a side scissoring thing, or like my button quail will peck it. It helps them keep their beaks
Yep.
trimmed and in shape. And you'll see birds do that like on perches. They'll, you know,
Hmm.
kind of like sharpening a knife, they'll wag their head back and forth on the perch. That's what they're doing there. They're honing their beak. And so cuttlebone also is an opportunity for birds to do that. So calcium, beak honing, gotta have it. You don't want to have calcium deficiency, can cause all kinds of,
Yep.
you know, internal illnesses, like that are long term really
Yeah.
problematic to
Yeah.
birds.
You get egg binding, and you mean their bones get weak.
Yeah,
It affects how they can fly. It
osteoporosis,
affects their new feathers that come in. I mean, there are a lot of things that,
neurological things.
yeah, exactly. And so, and there's a few other as well, a few other options for calcium out there. They have some liquid calcium. They have a powder form of calcium that you can mix into water. So there are a few other options out there. They do have some of your mainstream pet store companies. They sell like a synthetic cuttlebone, and I would recommend not getting those ones.
Hmm.
It basically is like chalk. And I have tried them in the past, and my birds have never touched them. And then the second I put in a real cuttlebone, they go to town on it. And so, um, just I would caution on the synthetic calcium ones, but there are some other liquid options out there. And usually during breeding time, I'll do a mix. I'll have cuttlebone available year round. When they're breeding and laying eggs, I'll add some calcium to the water just to give them that extra boost, which really helps with the egg binding. In the wintertime, my birds don't eat as much calcium because they're not breeding. And so don't be discouraged if you feel like the calcium's not getting eaten, but maybe find some new ways to introduce calcium in their diets, and kind of enrichment ideas like egg food and having crushed hard boiled egg shells in there, things like that, that are other options that they can get that calcium from, that may be different than just a cuttlebone sitting in their cage collecting dust sometimes, because that's some species don't eat them as much, and so you got to kind of be creative and think out of the box.
Right, and like your males don't touch them as much, right? Because they're not
Yeah.
laying eggs. I
Yeah.
would say, I do want to say, be careful with the liquid calcium. I have some too, and I'll do stuff like before breeding season. I'll give every hen a drop, but you can overdo it on calcium
Yeah. Yep.
too. So be careful. That's not something like I wouldn't add calcium to their water every day, all the time, 365. That's a again, everything we're talking about here is not necessarily a daily thing. It's just a they need this
Right.
available. That's why I like Cuttlebone. You put it in there, birds self serve, right? They know what they need, they regulate themselves, they get as much as they need. Um, yeah, all right. So what's another one, Chris?
Yeah. So the next one that comes to my mind is charcoal.
Yep.
I've had have charcoal on hand. There's certain species that seem to enjoy it more, but it is a pretty good treat that my birds, when I put it out there, it doesn't last very long. I mean, they used to go to town. My Goulian finches love it, and a lot of the Australian finches really. And charcoal helps to regulate their digestive systems and provide some other minerals into their diet. And so, yeah, that's something that I provide in a little side dish next to the seed, and the birds really do enjoy it and they go to town. If I ever put it on the ground, my button quail think that it is dirt and they'll take a dust bath in it. And so my gray buttons, when I come back, they almost look like a dark gray, like
They
blackish
look like
color.
a
And
chimney sweep.
it's kind of funny, they eat it as well. But yeah, so that's also another good source there to kind of help gut digestion, reset their stomachs, kind of a natural remedy for that piece, and then also adding some extra nutrients into their diet as well.
Yeah, and I just checked. We do have that on the website as well. We have the Hari brand charcoal, which is great. Um, a couple species will not breed without charcoal as a general rule. I mean, I'm sure somebody's going to drop in the comments and say, "Well, I've bred them and I've never had this." There as a general rule, right? So the Gouldians, your masked grass finches have to have it, and some other things, but they have to have bird charcoal. Your shaft tails really like bird charcoal. Um, some of the small Africans really like it, and what? Yeah, they're removing toxins. They're getting some supplements from it. It's basically like gut health, and then I guess in the wild they would get it from like forest fires and stuff, like burned out
Hmm.
trees and things like that. But obviously, hopefully, you're not keeping your birds in a fire in captivity, so you've got to provide that. Charcoal is one of the things that yeah, like you do. You said, I've got just a little dish in the aviary that always has charcoal in it. And the birds find it and hammer it pretty quickly. If I put it out, I'll come back a few hours later and there'll be a bunch of bird footprints in it and there's less charcoal, right? So
Yep.
they'll do it, and then they'll also, like the masked grass finches, will put it in their nest too. So
Yep.
yeah, all right, let's go. So another one, salt licks. So iodine is really important in feather production.
Yes.
It's really critical. So I supply iodine two different ways. Um, I in egg food, especially during the molting time, and we've explained in previous episodes, I'll do egg food every day when breeding. During molting, I'll do 3 days a week.
Hmm.
And I got powdered kelp meal, which everything we're talking about, because I'm just excited. It's kind of like a
I
kid
was
in a candy store.
I was just thinking the kelp as well. That's something that I add
Uh,
as well for the iodine.
so yeah, not on the website yet, but coming. Um, the so powdered kelp is something that I sprinkle onto the egg food, help the birds get iodine that way. I'm actually allergic to seafood, so I'm a little bit worried that I'm allergic to powdered kelp. So every time I mess with it, I'm like kind of nervous, but it hasn't killed me yet. So
Just don't go
we'll
sniffing
see.
it or licking your fingers afterwards.
Well, Steve Irwin used to say this. He said he wouldn't feed his animals anything that he wouldn't eat. So like I will always like the treats and stuff that I feed Einstein, like the Hari chili pepper snap treats and stuff like that. I'll eat one before I start giving them to my animals to see, are they good? But once the powdered kelp's in there, I don't eat it. Um, and then the other thing I do is just provide salt licks. I think they're made for rodents actually, but they're like a little,
Uh-huh.
just a circular thing of iodized salt.
Yep.
And I hang every bird cage I've got has one in it, that I'm keeping birds in long term. And uh, you'll see birds, and I've got videos on my Instagram of it happening. I saw a young Gouldian doing it today. They'll just come up and you'll see them just lick it a bunch, like a
Oh yeah.
lollipop, and then
The goats.
fly
Yeah.
off. Two things about the salt lick to remember, though, these are things I've learned the hard way. Um, Salt causes rust, so anything metal that it's near is gonna get rusty. Even like outdoor screws, all weather screws, are gonna get rusty if you just
Especially for
drip
you,
salt
Jay,
on
and
them.
your straight humidity that you live in.
You have no idea. We had one of the rainiest days we had all year today for whatever reason. Normally our rain, like I say, we get rain every day, but we normally get like just like a quick hard shower in the afternoon and then it's done again. Today it rained
Wow.
basically before sunrise till almost sunset. So it was just super humid today. I mean, I fed the birds this morning with a dang umbrella just between my house and the aviary. So, and then the other thing, if there's some of them that are colored, I sometimes use the colored ones. I don't really like to because I think it's artificial dyes or whatever. But
Yep.
if you can get the non-colored ones, those are better. I think those are the ones that New Zealand's getting. And by the way, I believe that will be a perch box item. Um, if wherever you hang it above, it's gonna especially if you live in a humid place, going to drip. So if you have like a green dyed salt lick underneath, you're going to have a green
Rust
dyed
spot below.
drip spot. So just, you know, just a little friendly tip. I know this from experience. All right,
You know,
what's another
it
one?
it's crazy you say that, Jay. I've never had the rust part or the dripping part because we're just so dry here in Utah that I
Oh,
mean, even when it's raining and winter, our humidity levels are like 50%, or below. It's just, I mean, I
yeah,
don't have
that
that issue, but
my humidity never goes below like 70% ever. I use the way I put those salt licks in is I'll try to leave like on a perch that I'm using, I'll leave like a little twig about that long and try to just slide it on gravity. Or in some of the cages, I hang it on the door, but I used to use just the same wire that I used to install perches, was just that green floral wire that's not insulated. And
Mhm.
then I would find them on the floor because they were just rusting through the wire. So now for those, I use insulated wire so that the rubber
Yeah, there you go.
keeps it from rusting. But yeah, I mean I have a screw that when I redo the aviary I'm gonna have to replace because even though it's like an all-weather deck screw, it's gotten rusty, and before it
Oh my
gets too rusty
gosh.
for me to remove it, I'm gonna have to replace it. So yeah,
That
if you
that's
if
awesome.
you live in a humid climate, just be aware that you're adding a pile of salt. So
But it is, the birds do enjoy it. It does give them that extra boost of some iodine and other minerals. And the last thing I was going to add to that too, Jay, on the kelp piece, kelp is essential when your Goulian finches are molting or need to start molting because it does help with that feather growth. And I find myself coming up here very soon. I've got Actually, it's right now. I've got half of my Goulians that are molting, and the other half look like they're going to be starting here in about a month. I've increased the amount of kelp. I have kelp granules, so it's a little bit bigger than your powdered kelp that you're talking about, Jay. But I mix that in with my egg food when I'm serving it to them, so that they can get a boost of the kelp and help with their molts. So it's really
yeah,
good
and I
for the
mean, and
Goulian
that's
finches.
any bird, right? Like
Yeah.
Einstein just went through a huge molt,
Yep.
and maybe I guess it was a regular molt, but he's a bigger bird, so in my mind it was a huge molt. Or he's still going through. He's just finishing in the next few weeks, I think. But yeah, so his daily food, kelp too, same thing. They've got to
Yep.
have to make feathers really pop. They've got to have iodine.
And it's usually your brighter colored birds, your Goulian finches, your parrot
Mhm.
finches, et cetera, that need that extra pop and or boost of nutrients and minerals so that their feathers stay in that good condition. Your gray birds, like your zebra finches, your cockatiels, uh, that stuff is great for them, and I would say yes, provide it so you can give them a well-rounded, balanced diet, but they're not as dependent on it as some of your more colorful birds. So just kind of a tip there.
Y-
The
Yeah,
last,
so those bald Gouldians and stuff that you
uh-huh.
see.
Yep.
Sometimes that's feather mites or scaly face mites. Sometimes that's just iodine deficiency,
Yeah.
right? So,
And your Goulians, if they're not healthy, they're not going to molt. So whether that health is mites or they're deficient in a nutrient, it's going to be harder for them to molt or they may not molt. And so for me, that's always a sign of why isn't my Goulians molting and what do I need to adjust diet wise or medication wise to help them get back up to a healthy state where they can molt and grow those new feathers. So the last one I was gonna do, Jay, and it's similar to your salt licks, but the mineral blocks that they have out there, the clay. So I mean, there's a bunch of different types. You've got some of your clay cal mineral blocks and clay blocks that you can do hang out for your birds that provides a big array of different minerals and
and
vitamins.
Clay Cal is on the website. I checked.
Yes, yeah, and so that's something that I put out in addition to the salt licks as well for the birds to be able to munch on throughout the year, and I have it up there year round. I For me, Jay, I don't have to worry about the weather too much. Most of my stuff I do keep inside of the shed. I don't have really anything out in the aviary except for just perches and room to fly around. on the outside piece. Most of my food and
Hmm.
nutrients and supplements I keep on the inside. But I do, if you've got a bigger cage, I do move them around month to month just to keep the birds enriched, keep them searching for the foods and different items. It is nice to kind of help them stay engaged. And these are great tools that you can use to provide a little bit of enrichment along with some additional nutrients in their diet.
Absolutely. Okay, the last one for me is grit. So a couple different ways to do grit, a couple different versions of grit. Um, the common thought about grit is that birds need it to eat. So some of your larger birds, like your doves, for example, or and reptiles do this too, like alligators do this, but chickens are another great example. They have a gizzard, right, which is like a muscle that they don't like. If you watch finches shell their food before they eat it. But doves, like my diamond doves, and I haven't posted this yet on any socials, but I'll reveal it here. And I haven't told you about this. I got the other day a pygmy ground dove.
What?
So yeah, I'll have to send you a picture.
Nice.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's a South American dove that's smaller than the diamond doves. Also, the flightiest bird I've ever had. He literally every time I enter my shed, he is just a pinball around the cage. I had to
So
put antibiotic cream on a cut because he
I,
smacked his head against the cage.
I lived in El Salvador for a couple of years and they had
Oh
those
yeah,
there
that's right.
naturally.
Yeah,
And I have always been on the lookout for some of those because I thought they were the coolest things and just their size is tiny, but yeah, they're some fast flying birds for sure.
yeah, and this one, and I don't know if they look like this in the wild, but this one's gray with little neon blue spots all over him.
Hmm.
And then I've got from the same person, I've got a hen coming when their other pair produces. So I'm
Nice.
in the future, I may have some for you.
That'd be
Um,
awesome, man.
but so the doves eat their food whole, right? So if you put out, 5 millet seeds, they just eat 5 seeds. They don't crack them, they don't shell them. So they've got to have something in their gizzard to work like kind of the two, like their teeth, like our teeth do, right? Like the molars to smash that stuff up. Um, so for birds that have a gizzard and need that can't shell their own food, you've got to provide grit in some form, whether that's really tiny little rocks, um, little pieces of sand, those kinds of things. Um, Hari, which is Hagen, right? The Hagen Avicultural Research Institute, they have an oyster shell grit that's literally just like smashed up oyster
Hmm.
shells. Um, I like to use that one because it's also a source of calcium. So even though your finches don't need it, they can go eat it and have calcium.
Yep.
So that's a good way for me to hit both of those at once. But if you have any birds, like sure your
I,
button quail do too. If you have any
I would,
obligate gizzard
yep.
birds,
That's what I was just gonna say. The button quail. I think that's a common bird outside of the doves and pigeons that a good amount of folks keep. And same thing, they eat those seeds whole, and all their food they eat whole, really, right? They don't shell anything, and
hmm
so that grit is important for the button quails or any quail if you own. Uh, so yeah, definitely an ad there. I have the grit, the oyster grit as well that I put down on the bottom, and they'll dust bathe in it, then they'll eat it, and then my finches will come and eat it as well. So
yeah, I love watching the dust baths. That's the first time I saw. I guess I mean it's a long time ago, but the first time I got button quail and they had dirt, I came in. I thought one of my quail was dying because she was like on her side like that,
uh,
and then all of a sudden she like did the shake thing and all the dirt went on top. I was like, oh, this is a dust bath. This is cool.
yeah, it's fun
Uh,
watching them, and then when they get done, you're right. They just lay there, and their legs are stretched out, their wings are kind of drooped, and you're like, hey, are you breathing? Are you okay? And then they'll just
yeah,
jump up and go back to
shake
their
it all
normal
off.
routine. Yeah.
Yeah, to be a quail.
I,
But no, yeah. So I mean, I'm sure we forgot something, but
Yeah, if you guys think of something else that you provide for your birds, drop them in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you have and any suggestions that you have for us to reach out to New Zealand for them to add to their website. They usually get some really good products for good prices and are competitively priced compared to other pet companies and suppliers. And so let us know. Drop some comments down below of anything that we're missing or things that you would like to see up on the New Zealand website for us to have them add
All right. And use code BirdBrains for 10% off.
every time.
All right. Um, where can they find you, Chris, if they have questions about this stuff?
Yeah, reach out to me. Facebook and YouTube is Bird Nerd. Instagram is Bird Nerd 4. That's the most used platform I use to as far as communicating back and forth with anybody really. So if you have a comment, reach out to me on Instagram, BirdNerd4. Love to hear your comments and chat with you. Jay, how about you? How can they get a hold of you?
So this is kind of an announcement. Chris already knows it, but I added TikTok to the repertoire. I've just been getting frustrated with the algorithm on Instagram lately. Um, I've talked to like my friend Zeb over at Blue Planet Pets and some other places that, and it seems like TikTok might be a good way to reach the youth.
Yeah,
Um, so I'm now on TikTok. Obviously, I'm on YouTube. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, and I'm Threads, which sucks. Um, don't DM me on Threads. The best place to DM me right now is still Instagram, TikTok, if that's your flavor.
I don't know how
And
you do it all, man. I don't know how you keep track of it and keep all those afloat.
yeah, well, people who follow me on multiple platforms already know this, but I'll let you on a little dirty little secret. I just make one video and post it on all the platforms
Yeah.
at a time. But and thank God for saved passwords, right? But
Yes.
we're here if you need us. If you got questions, concerns, thoughts, feelings, emotions of any kind, let us know. We're here and we love to help.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, y'all. Catch you in the next one.